inside the park, right? And so there's a big fight over it, and Gifford Pinchot ended up winning that debate, and John Muir's heart was broken. There's a photograph of Hetch Hetchy before the dam, and there's an artist rendering. And there it is, submerged. You can see the bathtub ring. Of course, they had to cut down all these 1,000-year-old trees that were on the valley floor. And there is an artist rendering of it restored. There have been proposals to restore Hetch Hetchy, and haven't gone anywhere. But the fight to save Hetch Hetchy was not based on ecological considerations. Okay, this is the early conservationist movement is what's dominant in this debate, and the conservationists were divided between developing and preserving. Gifford Pinchot is a self-described conservationist, but he's the guy pushing this dam. We could say the same thing about all these dams on the Columbia and Snake Rivers, right, that have decimated our salmon runs. They are all the result of conservationist resource management thinking. Okay? But because conservationism is a schizophrenic, there are there are protectionists, conservationists, and then there are a lot of extractivist conservationists too. So the fight to save Hetch Hetchy was based primarily on aesthetic considerations, the Romanticist 19th century views of nature, shades of Emerson and Thoreau and their transcendentalist friends, and Americans' interest in national parks and wilderness preservation were based largely on concern over the fact that America's frontier and a vital part of U.S. history and national character were being rapidly destroyed. And this is what I'll identify you now early in the term here. This is basically a virtue ethics argument, right? Our national character are dependent on protection of our national parks. That's basically a virtue ethics argument because it talks about our character as a people. All right. And that's pretty much all the farther I wanted to go today because natural law and natural design arguments are what you're going to encounter. But now we still have 6 minutes though, and I have a lot more to do, but so don't be all rustly yet. I haven't asked you to read John Muir, but I've talked some about him today. John Muir relied pretty heavily on theocentric sort of natural design arguments. He argued that the Hetch Hetchy, the valley, the majesty of the place reveals the hand of God more clearly than any other, than most other places. He argued that the Hetch Hetchy Valley had a destiny, and the only destiny for that place is to be preserved, for humans to enjoy, to find peace and solace in its beauty, a clear sign of the majesty of God. Right? He says, better to flood, your temples, better to use the Vatican, use your cathedrals and your synagogues as places to store water. That's what you're doing. That's what you're talking about doing here. But I'll point out, remember, we're studying forms of argumentation, and the forms are always distinct from the conclusion. Every form of argument that we study, every normative tradition that we study can be wielded in an extractivist direction or in a resource protectionist direction. And we will find natural law theory arguments. We'll encounter them again in the reading for Thursday, in the Ron Arnold. Ron Arnold is our wise use advocate and the guy that is shameless about relying on natural law kind of arguments, which are really pre-Enlightenment arguments. These are pre-Enlightenment arguments. We ought to do something because God had a hand in this or that, right? And we generally stay away from those arguments. It sounds like, hey, that's good, man. This is environmental ethics class. Okay, natural law. Hey, all right, natural law theory. That must be. But no, actually, natural law theory. We threw that out with when Darwin came along and recognized that the universe is not teleological and nature is not teleological. So natural law theory is a very old kind of argument that's almost always associated with people who are coming from a strongly religious point of view. And although it's not evident in the essay that I've asked you to read by Ron Arnold, I suspect that if you dig a little deeper, you'll find that he is coming from a very strongly religious Judeo-Christian point of view. So that'll be what we'll study a little bit about natural law theory on Thursday. And now you know the story, you know enough about Hetch-Hetchy to be able to start thinking about the moral struggle involved, that went down there. And now you know enough about utilitarianism to recognize that it's a consequentialist theory. And I've also given you a little bit of an introduction into axiology. Think of those 4 different axiological orientations. There's a lot, really. I've been through a lot today, gone through a lot of material, and we're going to go through an equal amount on Thursday. We're just, like I said, we have a steep learning curve, okay? So please try to keep up, and that's it. I guess we'll just leave 2 minutes early, all right? So have a wonderful Wednesday. I'll see you all on Thursday. I'm looking forward to it. If you didn't get a syllabus, then please come get one. And if you aren't getting emails from me, then make sure you do something about that too. Yes?
Have you ever seen the background?
No. No, actually, I have a copy of that. In fact, did I send it to you? No, she was going to. She never did. I communicated with his daughter. Only one of his kids is still alive. His daughter, Estella. Did you ever, it's probably before your time, but I think that's where Baird College at top, at Stevens Point. He's the principal interpreter, of Leopold. He's the principal, at least among philosophers. Yeah, we'll read some college. That's cool, man.
So I'm not getting your emails. I'm wondering what can be done about that.
Well, you have to change your email address with the people in the registrar's office, I guess.
But I'm getting other professors' emails. You're the only one I'm getting.
When were you registered in the course?
When?
Yeah. The whole time? Because you know what I do is I just go to email students, I just go to bandweb, and I go to my class roster, and at the bottom it says email students. So I click on that, and then I get all their addresses.
Okay.
And then I just copy and paste them into my email window. That's how I do it. So if your address isn't with the registrar, then that's the only way I can explain that.
That's kind of a mystery since I'm getting other professors, so I can't change it because other professors have my email address right now. Have you ever heard of a problem like that?
No. You didn't. So you didn't get a syllabus digitally, and you didn't get my lecture notes digitally either. Well, send me an email so I can be sure to send them directly to you. All right.
Okay. This isn't on D2L. Or
I don't use D2L at all.
So it's your normal email. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll try to send you the emails.
It comes under. The heading I always identify as about. I always say environmental ethics. That's what it's about. So.
Okay. Well, we'll try to figure it out.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.